I read comics, baby.
Welcome to On Comics. This is Lonnie Webb. I have with me Ryan Hack. He is going to share with us his comic campaign coming up. Ryan, would you like to speak briefly about the correct name and volume of the campaign that's beginning, right?
It's ending, sort of. It's basically it's called the Unspeakable Text, and it's a horror comic anthology I started about 3 years ago, roughly at this point. And basically a lot of the story, it's not really horror. A lot of the stories are suspense, thriller, high concept. A little bit like the Twilight Zone, but then again, we go to the future, we go to the past, we go to a lot of different places, a lot of strange concepts that you probably wouldn't even see in that show, with a lot of different things. And they're all black and white comic books and comic book stories, rather. Usually the stories are from 5 to 10 pages, and I usually collaborate with someone, a new person every time. And so at this point, right now, we have about 30 stories that I've written all myself and collaborated with incredible artists that I found through Instagram or ArtStation, who just through collaboration alone. I didn't commission them. This is simply I asked someone if they'd like to collaborate kind of project. There was no money involved. So that's one of the cool things about it. And so the first volume we had about 11 stories. This volume we have about 16 stories that we're putting in. And actually there might be more, depending on if someone finishes, or a couple people are still in progress with the stories. But yeah, it's just a really fun project that has a whole bunch of. It's an excuse for me to kind of write anything that I want to, and it's just really fun to write short comic books because so many people have these visions of huge, expanding comic book stories, and I am guilty of that too. But it's really fun to just work on a self-contained story that has a beginning and a definite ending, and collaborate with someone on it. And so that's really what the Unspeakable Text is, in a nutshell. And our second volume, again, as I said, has 16 stories, all written by myself and 16 different artists. And that doesn't include the editors and the letterers involved in the book too. So it's a fun thing that I've kind of put together over the last 3 years, and I'm really happy and proud of it. So.
And it's black and white.
Yes, absolutely.
Anybody that notices the Jitsi icon hanging in the upper left, Jitsi is a direct point-to-point communication system with no opportunity for interception because of the encryption, and you can set a password on the room. I'm not plugging them, I'm just sharing that they exist and they're free. If you want to host it yourself, you can, but I am using meet.jitsi, which is found in the Apple Store or on their website. So what's the name of the anthology?
The Unspeakable Text. Yeah, it's just yep.
Is that a reference to the Necronomicon?
No, it's not. But I think unintentionally, kind of is sort of. The idea of it is like whoever opens the stories in the book are supposed to be hidden from time and this sort of thing, and the book itself is sentient, so it actually walks, and it has people who scribe for it. One of the stories in the book in the anthology deals with Ichabod Crane being a scribe for the book, so he goes and finds these events and writes them in the book, and they're supposed to be hidden from time, stories that are not supposed to be told. So that's just an example of one of the scribes that we get to meet. And so there's a big mythology. I mean, a lot of the stories have a connection. and I think that that's intentional because it is written by one person. So I think that a lot of anthologies, they lack consistency. I think with a lot of the ones I see on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, they lack a little bit of a consistency factor because they're all being written by different people, and that's only natural, of course. And so I think my attempt is really to kind of make an anthology that feels like it's in the same universe, that feels like all the stories are following the rules of the universe. Like, I'm not going to try to have like a crazy interdimensional being that's all powerful in this story, or I'm not going to try to introduce superheroes, but there is magic and there is this and this and this. So yeah, that's kind of the idea with the Unspeakable Text. But the back to the inspiration of the Necronomicon, kind of it is a lot like that, the Necronomicon, and I think that imagery of that book is just you know, it's just kind of, it's always been cool to me. So I was like, maybe if I could expand that, add something to it.
Yeah, it's genius. I think it's one of Lovecraft's best touch points. So there's no Cthulhu type characters, no elder gods. These are not Lovecraftian stories, but perhaps a Lovecraftian style.
So I mean, yes, there's definitely some stories that might be inspired. I mean, there's actually a lot of Lovecraftian anthologies on Kickstarter. In fact, there's one called like, it's hard, Cthulhu is hard to spell, I think that's one of the more popular ones, which is awesome. But I think my anthology, trying to do a lot of different things. We have war stories, a couple war stories. So like in I was inspired by The Unknown Soldier, those great comics, or Sergeant Rock, to write one in this particular comic book. Or we have crime comic books, crime stories. We have alien stories. We have luchador stories. Kind of in the tone of the movies that were made in the '60s, luchador movies with and El Santo or the Demon, or all these different characters. Or we just have a lot of different touchstones. So it's not really a Lovecraftian inspired, but the basically it's just an excuse to have a lot of fun ideas in an anthology, pretty much.
So how many days are left?
There's about 7 days left, but if we don't make it, we're going to relaunch. The goal is very small, but again, it's hard to get the word out with these anthologies because I think people look at them, they're like, they don't quite get it, or they don't quite understand. They think maybe like some of the stories are from a different book or something. So, I think if I just maybe continue with another campaign in a couple months, we will succeed quicker. I still hope we'll succeed with this one. Again, we have a week left and we have about 50% left to go, but it's possible, certainly, since the goal is so low. But, again, I'm not like, might not like biting my nails or anything, because the stories are done, they're finished, so it's not, all I need to do is get the money to print the books. So there's less stress, whereas my other project, I needed money to finish the book and print the book, and on top of that, it was a Christmas themed book, so it was very difficult. It had a time limit, like if I didn't get it funded before Christmas, then obviously it'd be probably wouldn't fund, because the anticipation for the Christmas book, but this one, the stories are done, no stress, so I'm loving it.
So there are 2 volumes.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to read the first volume before I read the second?
No, not at all. You don't need to read. I mean, it does have some introduction about one of the stories does have some introduction about the Unspeakable Text, but we do have a website, so you can read that story on the website if you'd like. We haven't uploaded the stories for volume 2 on the website, because we want to make sure it's printed first and people get them first before they go on the website and read them. But yeah, all those stories are on the website from the first volume. So if you feel left out in any way, you can just go there and read them. And you can also get it on this particular campaign too. You can get volume 1. We're reprinting it. So
great.
Yep.
Dollar-wise, where are you?
Dollar-wise, so the goal is, let's see here. You mean the price of the book, or
on the
our
campaign,
percent?
just talking in general.
Okay. In general, our goal is 2,500, and we're at about 800 right now. So we have a way to go, but I mean, it's possible in a week because so many campaigns, in comic books get, I mean, I had my one campaign get $2,000 in a day, and yet it's being it's really really difficult to even get $2,000 in a month with this one. So it's just it's very strange how that works. But yeah, hopefully we'll succeed. But like I said, if we need a relaunch, then so be it.
These are all original stories. There are no adaptations.
Nothing like that. No adaptations. Completely original. I mean, one of them is an adaptation of one of my own prose stories. I will say that, but no, they're completely original stories.
What's your favorite story?
Well, there's right now I'm kind of in a war phase. So I've been like kind of reading Sergeant Rock stories, or been really into that kind of stuff. So there's a story we have called The Invisible Soldier. And it's about exactly what you'd expect: an invisible soldier in World War II who leads a battalion of soldiers, and they kind of get ambushed by Japanese soldiers. And so it's just really cool to see like someone with like an invisible soldier with guns, or taking them down, and they have no idea what's going on, and it's just it's kind of a play on the unknown soldier. Because the unknown soldier in the DC comic books, he's completely wrapped, and I thought, oh well, what if there was an invisible soldier? And so I've never seen that done before, and I like the past of this character, because he explains to them like he was kind of hidden, and I kind of basically wanted him to be like the Invisible Man. And what if the Invisible Man was drafted into World War II? Basically, that's kind of the concept. So,
yeah, him being invisible saves a lot of time trying to draw him.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was at first, when I first got the pages, I was like, "Where is he? I have no idea where." Oh, and I was like, "Oh, okay, his clothes. I see where he is now." But that's one of my favorite ones. Another one is, let's see here. I mean, there's so many good ones. I feel like in this volume in particular, because they're just I don't know. They're really, really. We try to go a little bit further in just pushing the boundaries of what we can do. Like I mentioned, the Ichabod Crane story is another really good one, and I think another one is we have this story where it's a kind of a war story as well, where there's Hitler. It's like in the 80s, and so there's Hitler clones. This German man has created these Hitler clones, and one of these Hitler clones goes rogue and is actually good. And so he escapes from this facility, and he basically thwarts the other Hitler clones' plans to start World War III, because he knows all of their plans, because he's been with them for so long. And so it's just a really cool story to see this guy who, obviously we're supposed to hate, and I mean, for good reason, and the clone of someone who we is one of history's worst figures ever. Just see that person kind of be celebrated, this clone be celebrated for all the things that he's done in stopping World War III. Just really kind of cool, interesting, unique story that I think people will like too.
Can you tell us about some of the artists you're working with?
Absolutely. So okay, so for the first volume, we had some really awesome artists, and one of them was named Farid Karami. He just got like last week just got a job for Marvel, so he's working for Marvel now. Some of these guys are not exactly professionals, but they're super passionate about comic books, and they're super into it, and they were willing to collaborate with me. A huge collaborator is a guy named Carlos Rodriguez, who worked on a book that was on Indiegogo called Odysee, I think. Odysee, if you've ever heard of that. It's kind of like a Frankenstein thing, and it was on Indiegogo, and it funded, so that was cool. But yeah, so we have him. I have also, let's see here. There's a whole list of them. A guy named Josh Hardy, or I mean, their Instagrams are all on the and their art stations are all on the Kickstarter, so definitely go check them out. It's just been a fun process in finding all of them on ArtStation, and it's been a long process because, it's difficult to get someone to agree to working on a comic book for free, to collaborate just for the heck of it, for fun. But ultimately, these guys are and gals are super passionate about comic books and sequential storytelling. And I think that I'm really lucky that they see something in my scripts that they like, and they are willing to collaborate with me. I still, I think I'm an okay writer, but I'm just really, really blessed to be able to have these people work with me and, bring these stories visually to life. And I'm kind of speechless sometimes thinking about it. Like when I was putting together the list, I couldn't believe I had 16 to 17 different people who worked on these stories with me just for this volume alone. So it's been a really fun, and I encourage anyone to look at all of their Instagrams and follow them, because they are super passionate about comic books, very clearly, really passionate about comic books. And yeah, just like with Fareed from last time, he was in the first volume. You'll probably see some of these guys getting published by Marvel or DC in the near future.
Anybody else that is involved in the big 2 or 4?
Fareed is kind of the one who's got kind of involved more so. I'm not sure if anyone else is. I'm trying to think of the people from my last campaign. Yeah, Fareed has been well. Actually, last year Fareed was one of the recipients of, I think it was either Dynamite Comics, or yeah, I think it was Dynamite Comics. They did this award for like trying to they did a talent search, or I think it was Top Cow around this time last summer. They were doing like a talent search, and he won the talent search, and I think he got some work for them. I think he worked on some Witchblade or something like that, did some pages for Witchblade, and then I think Marvel finally found him. But I'm trying to think of, I don't think anyone else has done some serious work in the big 2, not to my knowledge. I mean, a lot of the guys are from different countries, so they've probably been published in other, like, for example, one of the guys is, I think he's Italian, so he was telling me that he had some publications in other larger publications in Italy, and so I don't know. I'm not exactly sure of the big 2 if any of the other ones have gotten published or are currently trying to submit, but I definitely think that they will, because some of these guys are incredibly talented, and I just cannot. I'm so excited for their careers, and I'm just really, again, super gracious and thankful that they thought they looked at my scripts and wanted to collaborate with me. It's kind of awesome. And yes, obviously you want to pay your artists, but the beauty of collaboration, and you should pay your artists, obviously. But the thing is, when you're trying to collaborate and just make comic books for fun, it's like there's like a purity. Obviously, there's no deadline. There's no, I'm not pushing them to finish the story at any time. It's just really, really fun. It's kind of like being in high school and like working with your friends after school on something, or in college, just working with your friends on something, and there's no pressure, and it's just really, really fun. So it's just kind of, I think the Unspeakable Text is really like a testament to just people who like love comics, and so it's been fun.
And the Unspeakable Text is on Kickstarter?
Kickstarter right now. Yep. And again, we might switch over to Indiegogo to see if there's possibly a change in interest, or we might try a different thing where I've seen people do GoFundMe's and stuff like that. But hopefully we succeed this campaign and we don't have to go further. But again, it's crowdfunding, as you probably know, is a difficult thing. I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. It's just a very challenging. It's definitely a skill that you can learn, I think, but it's really, really challenging, and you have to really be thinking about it as much as possible. It consumes a lot of your day, and just thinking about it, and just seeing the thing go up and down, whether on someone takes their money out or puts it back in, or I mean, it's a roller coaster, and it doesn't matter how successful you are. I think that even if you succeed in the first hour, which so many comic books do these days, or at least really big guys do, it's just it's still hard. I'd still imagine that they probably are upset with not making this specific figure that they wanted to make, or they didn't sell as many of this as they wanted to, so now they have to pay more for this than something else because not enough people got it. So there's all kinds of complications for every level of yeah.
Have you done any other Kickstarter or Indiegogo
Uh-huh.
projects?
Yeah, so this last Christmas, I did a book called Bric-a-Brac. It's a Christmas, and it's a Christmas story, and it's written by me and the artist by Raphael Sam, and it's just a fun Christmas story based in a Christmas world. This one, it's more challenging to crowdfund than the Unspeakable Text because the goal is higher. And yeah, it's a blast. But I'm gonna be crowdfunding the third and final one this Christmas. But yeah, that's all the other crowdfunding experience I've ever had. Really, just these two series, pretty much in terms of the comic books. Yeah, so they're hard. They're very difficult, and you have to really make sure to get yourself out there and try to promote it as much as possible.
It is sort of a sequel to the previous volume, but it's not required reading.
Exactly, it's loosely. I mean, again, it just kind of references what the Unspeakable Text
Okay.
website and read those stories individually if you'd like, or get the first volume and kind of have it in print. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing really. The stories are really standalone, and that's kind of the point. Is I think we have this expectation of stories continuing in comic books, and I think it's just really cool to have just a bunch of stories that have definitive endings. I feel like we've kind of lost that in mainstream comic books. Like every once in a while, DC will release like a holiday special that has stories that have a beginning and end, but really, other than that, they don't really publish anything like that. And there's maybe an annual or something like that. Or I think a good example is like Batman Detective Comics 1000. Had all these anthology type stories, but other than that, when it's something special, they don't really do it. So I think it's kind of a lost form, other than on the Kickstarter realm or the Indiegogo realm. So yeah, it's just a really fun thing to do, and the stories are all standalone. So again, you do not need to read the previous volume to understand them.
What's the biggest hardship you've run into doing this project?
The biggest hardship. Again, it's been really simple in terms of like really because again the book is completely done, so running the project with that is it has been really easy, and there's no stress because like when you have a project that's maybe half done or even less than half done and you're crowdfunding it and asking people for money, it's really difficult. It's it makes you more frustrated because it's like, oh, this is a project I put so much time into and now no one wants to fund it. But when the book is finished, I can always put the stories on the website or this. But I think the big hardship is, honestly, the crowdfunding has been the biggest hardship this time around. And I think that's because I think anthologies are kind of harder to market than like a single story. And I also think that yeah, I think horror books especially are kind of harder to market than maybe an action book or even a Christmas book for that matter. Even though people were telling me that too was difficult to market, and it's true, it was because it's very timely. But this one I think is special because it's not exactly horror and it's not exactly this and it's not exactly that. It's a lot of different things. So I think people don't really know what to think of it. And so that's been the biggest struggle, and it was the struggle last time hurdle this time around is just kind of finding its identity and trying to market it. It's kind of hard to market because you'll share one page and it's by one artist and it has a completely different genre than another page you'll post the next day, and then people are like, is this a different book or what's going on here? So it's kind of anthologies are hard that way, I think.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Do you see any risks coming up that will affect getting comic books in the hands of backers?
Not necessarily any risks. Again, the book is finished, but I think I do see risks when the books aren't finished. I think this is kind of a controversial hot topic that I think a lot of people have to face when they're making comic books are unfinished products and they're asking people for money is that, there's never a real deadline. Like there's not, and I think we've seen this with a lot of projects on Indiegogo or Kickstarter that just go dead or they haven't fulfilled for several years. I think that's every creative person who makes a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, that's not their goal to like have the book be 3 years late. It never is. Obviously, they're trying to do it in good and with a good heart, but there's just things that get in the way of production. Like if I was a writer, my biggest fear would be my artist just completely doesn't talk to like they'll just I'll lose contact with them or something like that, or they fall off the face of the planet and I can't contact them anymore, and then I have all this money and I have to give it back to all these people somehow, or that's one of my biggest fears running campaigns. There's a lot of uncertainty. It's kind of like a ballsy move, when you're trying to do some kind of Kickstarter thing, because you could really hurt your reputation if something goes wrong. And there's a lot of examples of that. I think there's so many examples of that. So you have to be careful, and you have to really make realistic goals, and you have to know that you can finish something, or at least have enough certainty that you can really bet on yourself. I think that's the main thing. But yeah, those are kind of some of my Kickstarter fears. That's it's kind of it's bittersweet. But luckily, with all my campaigns, I fulfilled them completely, and I hope to do that with all my future ones. So,
well, I'm pretty confident. You sound like you got enough intestinal fortitude to deal with the problems as they arise. Would
yeah.
Are when the backer backs your project, is shipping part of the price, or is that an addition?
Yes, it is part of the price. Yeah, I think with US I've asked for $5 or maybe $4, and with you know with Canada I think maybe $8, and international some other rate. But I think a huge thing that's contributed to my becoming more knowledgeable about shipping is getting on stamps.com and actually shipping the books myself with my own printer and all that stuff, because you kind of really do figure out, like, okay, this is how much it takes to ship here, this is how much it takes to ship domestically here. Yeah, I think that hopefully that answers your question.
Very well. And because I've gone through these same things, and it made my hair gray. Look at that.
Yeah.
Would you believe I'm 19?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really simple. So first we just have a digital, for $5 you can get a digital copy. For $8 you can get 1 and 2 digitally if you like those digitally, and obviously you can get them on the website eventually, but they're not in really high quality PDF. So if you'd like those, you can get those, and then for $12 you can get the physical copy and the digital PDF. So for people who have volume 1, they can get volume 2, and then we have a deluxe version where you can get bookmarks and exclusive print and stuff like that with the volume 2. And then we have a bundle for the physical bundle, where you get all physical, all digital, and bookmark and print. And that's it. It's very simple this time.
You're running so tight to the margin. I think we just need to get you some more voices. This is Ryan Hack here with me, and his campaign is the Unspeakable Text Volume 2 on Kickstarter.com.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that the artwork is suitable for kids?
No. No, I would not say. Some of the subject matter and some of the, I would say it's more like a teen audience, maybe a mature audience. I mean, there's some blood, I think there's some explosive body parts in the one of the stories, but it's not anything crazy gratuitous. It's just fun stories that are a little bit more serious, but again, really inventive and fun. And I think you're gonna have a great time reading them. I encourage anyone who's interested in getting the book to look on our unspeakabletext.com and check some of the stories out already that I have up there, because you'll like I think the tone and the fun of it, and I think you'll get a kick out of it. So consider maybe looking at that before you buy the book. And yeah, but I wouldn't say that the tone is really for kids, which is yeah, it's a little bit more mature than that.
So there's a gore warning,
Not gore,
language,
but
nudity is not
just
really...
mischief. I don't know. Maybe I think just there's some subject matter that they're war stories or stuff like that that do have like exploding people in them, or certain stuff like that. I would say maybe teen, like 13 plus.
So appropriate comic book violence, maybe.
Yes, exactly. Nothing crazy, but there's just yeah, just some blood, some gore.
Okay. Let's see. Have I missed anything? Okay. How do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so on Twitter at HAACK_pro. So at Hawk Pro. Twitter's a great place to get a hold of me, and then on Instagram I'm at Ryan Hawk 98. So again, those are two places, or I think you might be able to even message me on Kickstarter or anything like that. Yeah, so those are probably the two places that you would be able to contact me.
I've been saying hack. Am I misreading it?
It's Hawk, but it's a German name, so
I get it. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to mention as we wrap it up?
Particularly not really. But yeah, I mean, again, I just would say that if you're interested in the book, consider looking at the website and getting a taste of kind of what some of the stories are like. The website link is in the campaign, and also just unspeakabletext.com. So yeah.
Okay. Unspeakabletext.com. I'll drop that in the description along with the campaign.
Got it.
And your Twitter address. And I think that is everything we have discussed. We've discussed the levels. We've discussed perks. Fantastic.
I just want to say thank you so much for having me on, and I really appreciate it. And I just dropped the link in the chat. So, yep. And yeah, I really appreciate you having me on and talking about this.
Fantastic.